Hello viewers and welcome to my review for Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. This will be for the PC version of the game and this review will contain spoilers. You have been warned. Before I begin, I want to explain a few things. I have been a Metal Gear fan ever since my first experience with this series, and this was all the way back in the year of 2002 when I was around 5 years old or so, and I was given a copy of Metal Gear Solid 2 to play from a friend, and to keep a long story short, I fell in love with the series, the characters, the world, and of course the gameplay. Fast forward to March 2013, well, Kojima and Co announced that Ground Zeroes and The Phantom Pain will be two separate games, with Ground Zeroes acting as the prologue and, as we all know, The Phantom Pain being the main meat of the title. But now, V has come too, and before this review starts, I do want to say that if you're a hardcore Metal Gear Solid fan and you can't take any type of criticism towards your favourite game series, then please do leave, or at the very least, try not to get too upset. And with that said, let's begin. I'm going to start off with story, and for me this had to be one of the most disappointing stories I've ever experienced with a Metal Gear game, and it does pain me to say that. The Phantom Pain story is pretty much unfinished and doesn't really have an actual ending to it, but before I get into that, I'm going to quickly describe the start of the game and then get into what I like and then obviously don't like. The Phantom Pain tells the tale of Big Boss, who recently woke up from his 9-year coma that was induced during the ending cutscenes of Ground Zeroes. Soon after waking up, he and a mystery patient known as Ishmael attempt an escape from a hospital that is under siege from XOF forces. Soon after their escape vehicle crashes, Ocelot arrives in just the nick of time to save you from the deadly man on fire, who is, well, if you've seen from the trailers, you can kinda guess who he is if you're a Metal Gear Solid fan, but anyways. After that's done, Big Boss then travels to Afghanistan to save his good old pal Kazuhira Miller, and from there it's basically up to you to travel around the land of Afghanistan and Angola to stop Skullface and his new Metal Gear, while also rebuilding Mother Base and your new private army known as Diamond Dogs. So that's the basic story introduction out of the way, and now on to what I actually like about the story, but mind you, it ain't that much. Now, as this is a Metal Gear game, you can obviously expect entertaining and emotional writing, you have the solid voice acting and cutscenes that are pretty damn engaging, and obviously they're shot beautifully within the game world, and some of the characters, they are pretty cool, and this is especially so for Quiet. She's just hands down my favourite character in this entire game. Now, the opening of the story is pretty much set up perfectly as well, due to the ending of Ground Zeroes, which then feeds into the start of the Phantom Pain, which is the hospital scene, which we've basically all seen from the trailers and so on, and it's just stunning and so entertaining to play through that section as well. And furthermore, this game has countless references to past games such as Peace Walker and of course Metal Gear Solid 3, which just makes you feel right at home when you do experience those moments. Characters such as Kaz and Ocelot are also an integral part of the story, and for the times when you do see them on screen, it's always fun to see how both these characters react and bounce off each other, and how they often butt heads due to their opposing views, which, for me at least, made me wonder who's right in this situation and should I put my trust into one or the other. But as I mentioned before, the story is really about stopping the new mysterious villain known as Skullface, and here's where things kinda just go downhill. So, if you did play Ground Zeroes, then you probably felt the same way as I did at the end of the game. You wanted revenge and you wanted your money back, but here's another thing you probably felt. You just wanted to take back what was yours because Skullface just destroyed it all, and frankly, you kind of feel like you're played like a damn fiddle. But here's the main thing. Right after that super exciting opening sequence I mentioned before, and that what you guys have probably seen from all those awesome trailers, the game's story basically enters a coma and doesn't really pick up again until way later into the game. The main problem with the game is that you'll be playing through all these main missions, right? And the majority of them, they just feel very singular and disconnected from anything to do with the story. I mean, there's side missions which are better than the fucking main missions in this game. How does that make sense? I don't know. But you'll be going through these countless main missions which will see you infiltrate certain outposts, destroy enemy gun placements, extract important VIP targets, and do this and do that. But at the end of the day, it just feels like narrative padding. But then all of a sudden this game will give you one of these awesome main missions that ends up picking up the story again, and you're like, yes, finally, more story content. And then it's gone. in an instant, and it just leaves this feeling of disappointment. Not to mention that there isn't really a clear reason or incentive to why you should be doing these missions. Instead, you're just given a few pointless details and then you're just thrown into them. One other issue that very much affects the story, or their lack of, is the fact that Big Boss, a character who we've come to love through the Metal Gear Solid 3 and Peace Walker games, he's pretty much a silent protagonist. I mean, is this really the guy who we all thought was awesome back in the day? I mean, he hardly ever says a word in his fucking game. I'm not sure this is the same character. And for all the mention that facial motion capture will be a big factor into capturing Kiefer Sutherland's emotions for Big Boss, well, I can assure you that's a load of bull. Snake hardly ever changes his damn facial expressions unless it's for the odd scream or the one time he might crack a smile, and trust me, you'll be hard pressed to find a moment when he actually shows a complex emotion for more than 5 seconds. Also, if you're about to recommend that you should listen to all the cassette tapes to get more story regarding Big Boss or just to hear him actually goddamn speak, then get real. For the times he does respond to Kaz or Ocelot or any other character, it'll be the one sentence he'll say, and most of the time it sounds kinda flat. And I'm not saying that Kiefer Sutherland, he can't do a good Big Boss, because he really can, but seriously, it'll just be the one sentence or the little grunt he'll use, and you're just like, really? Is that it? Is that all we're getting from Snake? And even during certain cutscenes when a character may say something important that would actually clearly make Snake have some sort of response, he just doesn't. He just stands there with no response. It really does make some scenes quite awkward, and this is especially so during a certain scene when Skullface and Snake have finally met. For reals this time, and are sitting across from each other in a jeep, and this scene goes on for quite a good while, and not once does Snake say anything or even change his facial expressions. He just kinda looks away to the camera sometimes and looks all fucking depressed. I mean, in what's meant to be a very important scene, it just seems like Kojima didn't make the most out of having such an experienced actor like him, and it makes some scenes feel awkward and at times not even finished, but hey, that's how I feel. Now, I did mention before the use of cassette tapes, which in this game is just another word for audio logs basically, and they kinda replace the codec calls, because codec calls in this game are just kinda yeah. But the majority of the game's main and important plot points can be found through these tapes. A lot of players could seriously miss out on a good chunk of the story if they don't pay attention to these tapes, and it's made even worse from the fact that there's only really one place that the player can listen to them, and it's at the Aerial Command Center, because if you even try to listen to them anywhere else, then get ready for Kaz, Ocelot, and other people just to constantly talk over them, making it near enough impossible to listen to them peacefully while on a main mission or even on a goddamn side op, unless you're just standing still doing nothing. Seriously, try going through a mission whilst listening to maybe a 5-minute audio log, and just tell me if you don't friggin' hear Pequod saying that, "I'm coming into land, boss," or Kaz like, you destroyed their anti-air placement? It's not a target. It's like, just guys, shut up, I need to listen to this, okay? It's annoying. I don't see why they couldn't have just had these important cassette tapes be in cutscene form, because it would make the overall experience more engaging for the player, and because you're just sitting around doing nothing whilst listening to them anyway, this seems like a goddamn great idea. Moving away from the cassette tapes though and back onto the, I guess what is the main storyline, once you eventually reach the end of the Skullface storyline, it kinda just ends, and you're not even really expecting it. It just comes out of nowhere. I mean, the whole experience was, in my mind, meant to be leading up to this one great Metal Gear moment when you eventually confront Skullface, but once this moment passes, you just have this feeling of emptiness and surprise, and trust me, it's not in the good way, because you end up being like, did I really just finish this? Oh, okay then. And by the time the game actually finishes, you just end up not caring at all, and for me I actually felt kind of betrayed in some ways. I mean, the story hardly contained any of that fun Kojima goodness which we all know and love, and as well, I mean, classic boss engagements that MGS is known for, well, trust me, they're gone out of this game. There's only like, what, 1 or 2 real boss fights in this entire game, and I seriously don't count the skulls among that pair because they're just so underwhelming, so easy to defeat. And for Quiet, you know, the really cool looking sniper, probably the best character in this entire game, well, trust me, prepare for your heart to be broken, as what happens in the storyline regarding her, it just seems so silly, and it's just unfair to the players as well. And the only way for this whole heartbreaking experience not to happen is to complete some obscure and stupid task that you could only find out about if you had the damn game guide, which I know I didn't. And as well, for the ending, well, let me just remind you that the real ending for this game and near enough the last chapter was cut out of the final release, and what we're given is an unfinished and super disappointing conclusion that left me feeling pretty damn pissed off. But those are my thoughts on the story. Time to move on to, well, better news, and that's the gameplay. So gameplay in The Phantom Pain is pretty much spot on. This is the best stealth action game you'll probably play in a long while, and as we all know, this is the first MGS game to go open world, and due to this, the game allows for new playstyles to be used that we haven't really seen in previous games in the series. I mean, all the missions in this game allow you to tackle them near enough any way you see fit. If you want to go in guns blazing with these big ass fucking machine guns and rocket launchers, then go right ahead, no one's stopping you. You still might get a good rank as long as you don't die too many times, but if you want to stick to more traditional ways, then you can obviously take the sneakier route, which is what I prefer, but sometimes I like to blow people's heads off. Now, like I said before, there are various types of missions to be found in this game, with the inclusion of what's known as side ops, which are basically smaller tasks to complete. You'll find yourself putting in a lot of hours to this game, and for me, I think I've put a total of 63 or 64 hours, and 42 of those hours include my very first completed playthrough, and I'm already on my second playthrough now, obviously. Another great factor regarding gameplay is that of buddies, who are allies that you can bring along your mission to offer assistance, and each of them bring their own distinct advantage. For me, Quiet is probably my favourite buddy to use because she can be, and very effectively mind you, just take out anyone who's within her bloody sniper scope, and she really kicks ass. But maybe you want to be a bit more sneaky and, you know, get to see who's in front of you. If you want to do that, use D-Dog. He's great for sniffing out enemies who are hidden in buildings and other locations, and for locating key items around your area, he can sniff them out and so on and so forth. He's pretty useful. Or maybe you just want to get around more easily, then, you know, use D-Horse or D-Walker. What's great is that with any buddy you use, you're able to build up your trust meter with them, and through this you can unlock more abilities for them to use and also upgrade their gear. Another noticeable and important factor of the Phantom Pain is obviously Mother Base and Diamond Dogs. With Mother Base, you're allowed the freedom of customization and exploration. Want to change the color of MB? Go right ahead. Want to explore the various different platforms or even head to your own zoo? Sure, why not? Now, granted, the overall customization of Mother Base, it's not really that spectacular. There's only a few colors to change it to and so forth, but it still feels pretty damn cool that you have your very own place you can call home. When it comes to expanding your private army though, known as Diamond Dogs, this is when it gets real fun, because in order to do this you have to use what's known as a Fulton recovery system, which is basically just a fancy word for a balloon, to extract any soldier you see on the field, any vehicle you want, any animal you want, and all those precious resources that are scattered all around the map in various containers, which in turn expand your own army and eventually add to improving Mother Base facilities and teams. For the most part, every bit of gameplay to be found in Phantom Pain is fun and actually easy to get into. It isn't really... When you get into the brunt of the game, it's not as overwhelming as some may say it is. It may take a little bit of time to get used to collecting all the resources you need to improve Mother Base and your army, but once you get a hang of that, you'll be researching and developing tons of weapons, different items and upgrades in no time. Unfortunately, there are a few things I want to mention that seem to be missing from this game, or just aren't that great and a bit weird as well. There are certain little movements that were in previous Metal Gear games that seem to be gone from the Phantom Pain, which I can only presume they're gone because of these simplified controls. These include the ability to do that really cool slow crawl that Old Snake uses, or even being able to pat down enemies in order to get items and ammo from them. But it's not like you really need to get rations or anything, they're not even in the game, and nor is a health bar. I mean, that shit's been completely removed for a more modern take on health, which is basically the whole make the screen red thing and then hide in a corner to get better, which, to be honest, it feels a bit naff. I'd prefer the health bar. Another thing too is that the AI just aren't that hard to outsmart or just generally deal with. Now, I ain't asking for human level AI, but they can just seem a bit slow at times. And even though in this review I said that there are tons of missions to do, with a lot of them having different objectives, it tends just to boil down to you going to that one place, using your int scope to mark out enemies, sneaking in or just killing your way in, and then extracting whatever you got to extract, and then, you know, legging it out of there. It gets a little bit boring after a while, and the same goes for only like the two main locations in the game, which is Afghanistan and Angola, as after a few hours spent with both of them, you just already know exactly the whole layout of the place. They just feel a bit empty and lifeless after a little while. There's like no there's just zero memorable locations in this game, which is a shame since every area in MGS3 and other games seem to have at least their own unique points about them. And another thing too is that you get marked down for using certain items. So if I was to use the stealth camouflage, then I can't go anything above getting an A, which is a bit weird. I don't want to be punished for using the items I want to use, but you know, whatever. Overall, I do really enjoy this game. I love to play the Phantom Pain, and sure, a few things are missing from it, but it's clear that this really is the culmination of years of previous Metal Gear games and a lot of experimentation. But now it's time to get into graphics and then a few other things, and then I'll give you my conclusion. So, let's go. Alrighty then, I'm going to keep this real short and sweet. This game looks good. The Fox engine is used to great effect in the Phantom Pain, and most of the time it can offer very pretty visuals both during gameplay and during in-engine cutscenes. Animations are also very smooth and well done, especially when doing CQC. They look freaking awesome. But like I said before, the two locations in this game can feel a bit empty at times, and you will get bored of the overall look of just the areas you're going to venture through. There are also a few textures which could have been placed better or even look better. Proof is in this image which I'm showing to you right now, but don't worry, as you won't really see this that often. Now, I played this on the PC, and for me, the game ran at a constant 60 FPS with no slowdowns whatsoever, and I'm also playing this game with everything set on high, and for the people wondering, I played this using a GTX 970. Lastly, I will mention this very quickly, and this is actually quite important to be honest, the official soundtrack for this game. So the music that was specifically made for this game are not all those licensed songs such as Man-Eater and Take On Me. Now, they aren't really up to the MGS standard. Now, it seems like I'm nitpicking, but this is serious. There's only really about 4 songs out of the entire soundtrack that are actually worth listening to, because everything else just doesn't sound that impressive at all and doesn't really fit with what's come in the past. I mean, seriously, listen to the soundtrack and I bet there's only a few tracks that are worth listening to, and it's these. V Has Come To, Sins of the Father, Quiet's Theme, and A Phantom Pain. Honestly guys, it's just those 4, because it really feels like the people who made the music in the previous games, they just all went on vacation and thought, fuck it, let's just allow a bunch of these hipsters with GarageBand to make the damn soundtrack. But whatever, it's time for my conclusion. Okay, the conclusion to what is probably my longest video review ever. The Phantom Pain is a must-buy. Now, I know, I basically said that the whole story in this game is shit, and for me, it really is. But at least the gameplay is spot on, and it's just so much fun to play. If you're a hardcore Metal Gear Solid fan like me and you've bloody finished every game there is in this series, then you've probably already bought this game, so what the hell are you doing even watching this review? But if you've never really touched the series and not really bothered with an unfinished and confusing story with a horrible ending, then just buy this game, because lucky for you, the gameplay is awesome. Now, MGS Online is coming out soon, and you can expect a full review of it here on this channel. But if you're looking for a bit more content, then make sure to check out our website at apgnation.com, or even visit my very own channel at The Friendly Broski. I'll catch you guys later, because I got a game to finish. Again.